I'm Jeremy Link. I'm with Learners Engaged. And today we're going to be talking about NovareFOCUS, a microlearning service designed to support ongoing staff development in libraries. We'll begin with an overview from Diana Silveira, founder of Novare Library Services, and then we'll hear from Amy Jane McWilliam, executive director of the Southwest Florida Library Network.
Hey, Jeremy, thank you. I'm gonna go ahead
Uh,
and
yeah, it wasn't quite yet.
oh,
Yeah, I was
sorry.
trying to shift my my presentation. Did it go to the next slide there?
No.
No. Okay. Sorry for that. Let's go. All right. How about that?
Yeah,
Great.
now you're on.
All right. One of the important conversations that's happening in libraries today is how to continue supporting staff learning and professional development in a rapidly changing environment. Libraries are constantly evolving, whether it's new technologies, new service models, or new expectations from the communities that we serve. Supporting staff as they continue to develop their skills and knowledge is an important part of keeping organizations strong and adaptable. Increasingly, many organizations, including libraries, are thinking about staff development not as just something that happens during occasional training events, but as an ongoing process that supports continuous learning across the entire organization. Finding flexible ways to support that kind of learning can help staff stay engaged with new ideas, reinforce important skills, and continue growing professionally over time. So today's session will introduce a fresh approach to supporting that kind of ongoing professional development through NovareFOCUS, which provides short, focused learning opportunities designed for library staff. We're fortunate today to have two excellent speakers with us who will share both the background behind the program and how it's being used in practice within libraries today. First, you'll hear from Diana Silveira, founder and president of Novare Library Services. Diana has worked with libraries across the country on staff development, leadership, and organizational learning programs. She will share the story behind Novare and how the Focus Microlearning Program was developed. After Diana's overview, we'll hear from Amy Jane McWilliam, the Executive Director of the Southwest Florida Library Network. She will talk about how Focus is being used with her member libraries and the role that it's playing in their staff development efforts. And with that, I'll turn it over to Diana.
Thank you, Jeremy. I am excited that all of you had joined me today to talk about my favorite topic, which is training. But before we jump right into that, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Navarre and myself. So Novare was founded in 2011. So yeah, it's our 15th anniversary. We have been working on staff development for over 15 years, and my experience with staff training goes way back past that in my previous jobs at the public library and at a multi-type library consortium. All of the staff are librarians or library adjacent staff members that have experience working in actual libraries. And our primary focus has been staff development for libraries in all these years. We do staff days, we do live in-person training, we do live webinars, we do self-paced learning, and now micro-learning. And that's really what we're going to focus on today. But I just want to start with sort of the bigger question. Why is staff training important? Staff training builds staff confidence and consistency. No one wants to sit at a service desk. No one wants to do their job if they don't feel confident in it. It you don't want if you don't know how to do a certain skill, it's really hard to help a user do that. It's really hard. It gives you a very great unease as anyone who's worked a service desk and you don't know how to do something, you're just worried someone is going to ask you that question. So building that staff confidence and that consistency of skills is essential with staff training. It improves service quality and user experience. If staff knows what's happening, you don't get things like, we can't help you because Mary's at lunch so you'll need to come back in an hour. Things can, we can handle situations effectively. We have confidence to handle the difficult situations calmly, and we can connect people to the right resources, which at the end of the day is the most important thing. It's not just good for our patrons, it's also good for that staff morale. We feel confident, we feel good. No one, if you don't feel confident in your job, it's not a great feeling. So you're increasing that service quality. And all of this supports staff adaptability, growth, and retention. What do I mean by that? So if you are comfortable in your job, if you learn the skills to be agile, you are able to grow and train. And if there's anything, librarianship is all about growth and change as we move forward in this world. So constant change is constant. So helping staff stay on top of that is essential. And all of that leads to retention. And retention is that people aren't going to leave because they're happy. They are feeling comfortable in their jobs. They see a path to moving forward, and growing within their organization. So staff training helps everybody from the organization to this user to the staff member. So that is why it's important to have a staff training plan. However, one of the biggest issues we have found with training is time. Time, all of you know that time is a huge struggle. We are doing more and more with less and less. We have service desks, we have a lot of back end stuff we have to do. We have programming, we have outreach. There is a lot going on. So it's really hard to attend training. Probably all of you have registered for webinars you didn't go to, had to cancel a face-to-face training at the last minute, or at least your attendance in it, or said, no, I can't do that because of time, or told a staff member, you can't go to that training because we need someone on the desk. So we really were looking at this issue, and I was talking to a lot of my clients, and we were talking about how can we solve this problem. Staff just doesn't have the time to do this full training. Sometimes they do, and that in-depth training, we can't take away from that. That is really essential and important. But how do we get people training when they don't have time? And the answer came in microlearning. Microlearning is short, focused learning experiences, usually 5 to 7 minutes, designed to teach one specific concept or skill at a time. Instead of a long, dense course, you get a small chunk of information with a clear, practical takeaway, learning that fits into your workday. Because it's only 5 to 7 minutes, you can do it whenever you have a little tiny gap in your schedule. The goal is not with microlearning to teach everything. We're not trying to cram in an hour's worth of lesson into 5 minutes. That's not going to work. We really focus down, take the lesson, and really give you one practical takeaway that you can walk away with from that lesson. And it's to teach someone something they need when they need it, not everything that they could possibly learn on the topic. So it's very different than a bigger training or or more complete training. So why does micro learning work? Our brains learn better in small chunks. Our working memory is limited. Too much information leads to overload. How many of you have gone to a full day training or a conference or a webinar and you go, oh, that was amazing. I have so many ideas. And then you have to go stop the desk or you go home from your training and the notepad just sits there. Maybe something gets implemented, maybe something doesn't. So having just one little takeaway gives them the ability to learn that one thing. It gives you a more formal way to do that. So you're reducing that cognitive load while still helping people learn something new. They're focusing on one idea at a time, and this is going to improve long-term retention. The forgetting curve is real and it's steep. They learned that without reinforcement, people roughly forget 70% of new information within 24 hours. Within a week, it's closer to 90%. This is just the human memory. Our brain discards what it's not using. So by having this one small takeaway that people can implement immediately, you're reducing this forgetting curve. There's not a bunch of stuff they're not going to use. They're going to take away that one thing and they're going to use it right away. So it gives them that idea that they're going to achieve that success. They're going to go ahead and implement it and they're going to remember it. It fits into a real workflow. This is really important. Every staff member gets an email And that email has a link. They click on the link. The lesson starts 5 minutes later, 7 minutes at the most. They are done. Staff are busy. Interruptions happen. Learning has to fit into all of our daily responsibilities. So they can do it before their desk shift. They can do it at a slow moment on the desk. They can do it right when they're checking their email when they come in, or it could be the last thing they do at the end of the day. It's really helping them get that learning in every week. And what does that do at the end of the day? It creates a culture of learning. So people are going to be learning, they're going to on a regular basis learn something new. And what this does is open discussion because everybody's getting that same lesson. Typically on a Wednesday morning, they get the lesson. And during that day, I can see the amount of people taking it over the course of the day. I can see that it's happening. I can start to see the feedback coming in as soon as that email goes out to a library. So, what happens? I just took this class. Now I can turn to my coworker and say, "Hey, did you take that class? What did you think about this?" And now we have this culture of learning because we're all learning every week. It's not a rare thing that we're taking a training, it's every week baked into your schedule. So you're creating that development, steady, manageable, sustainable learning instead of sort of you learn here and you learn here, and maybe once a quarter or once every 6 months you get to go to a training. Now they're getting consistent weekly training. So it's a little more brain friendly, time friendly, task oriented, and action oriented. So microlearning can really benefit your staff and give your staff training plan a really good foundation, and then it gives you space to do additional training above it. So let's talk specifically about focus. We call it FOCUS because FOCUS is actually an acronym for Flourish, Optimize, Connect, Unite, and Skills. And what does that mean? So, all of the training is specifically designed, as I mentioned, our staff is all librarians. So, it is specifically designed for libraries. It's not a bunch of corporate stuff that's kind of crammed into libraries stuff or just very generic training that doesn't really have any legs in the library world, where when you take it, you go, yeah, that's okay, but it doesn't really apply in libraries. So we take a lot of that kind of training and flip it to make sure it fits into the library world. So Flourish is personal growth, professionalism, self-awareness. Things like how to show confidence, emotional intelligence, 5 ways to stop negativity in its tracks, which we're going to look at in a minute. Dealing with imposter syndrome, body language for frontline staff, professional phone etiquette, communicating clearly, which I cannot do today, with library users, questions to improve your reader's advisory, and questions like that. So, a well rounded idea of kind of that personal growth, professionalism, self awareness. And they're all giving you, they're not going to be a master's class in body language. You're going to give them a few little things they can take away and start to implement about their own body language and reading body language from users and coworkers. So they get very practical tips. All of us, I love when I receive a lesson because I always learn something new myself because I don't write most of the lessons, so I take them just like you do, and I feel like I learn something every week. So optimize time management, workplace efficiency, productivity skills, all of that stuff that's going to make us stronger and work more effectively with less resources and time. So how to reduce common time robbers, how to do a digital cleanup for a smooth Monday, time blocking, inbox zero-ish. That's one of those we really turned around for libraries. Realistic email management for librarians, handling interruptions without losing focus, how to reduce decision fatigue, the myth of the perfect workday. So really working on that time management, workplace efficiency, and those skills. So we're gonna And I didn't finish the whole list, so we're not going to go to that yet. We're going to come back and talk about Connect, which is communication skills, teamwork, and conflict resolution. Nothing that we need in libraries, right? So we spend a lot of time on the reference interview, all different aspects of it, listening, how to ask questions, how to make referrals, how to teach in a reference interview, how to serve users with diverse needs, how to handle reference desk drama. So putting all of that together and also just communicating with each other, with your coworkers, with supervisors, and with users. And when we say reference desk, it's really a service desk. How do you work with all of the users and how do you get the most effective transitions in there? Unite is leadership development, team building, and management fundamentals. One of the things we wanted to do with this is we really work to get some skills for current managers, especially those middle managers and new managers, but also great reminders for those who have been management for a while. But also on the other side, questions for the person who, when they first start in a library, they want to move up to management. But do I have the skills? How do I get those skills? I remember when I first started working in the library going, how do I become the director? How do I do that? So this is those lessons are in there and we kind of work together in there. So we have things like how to be a better teammate, how to lead a team, how to do outreach, how to get ready to lead, habits that are going to build leadership skills, great 11 great questions that leaders ask their teams, so how to be a better leader, and what supervisors wish staff knew, and then supporting decisions we didn't make, which is a really hard issue for sort of new or middle management. And lastly is skills. This is where we delve into that technology and we rotate these every week. So we don't want to be we're not heavy on any of these. They rotate right through. So skills are practical technology skills for today's environments. These are introduction to AI, helping users with technology, digital literacy, how to spot information online, digital safety, cybersecurity, a little bit of Microsoft, a little bit of Google, 5 work tasks that you can handle with AI. So kind of bringing in technology in different ways. So we rotate these once a week. So you get a flourish the next week and optimize a connect. So your staff gets a well-rounded verse of microlearning as this instead of just a whole mess of stuff on the same topic. So this really kind of rotates the skill level and gives them a diverse amount of training. They're going to get a well-rounded training base through NovareFOCUS. So let's go ahead and take a lesson from one of these. So every week your staff member gets an email just like this. We send it to the site coordinator and then the site coordinator distributes it to their staff. So this is one from a couple weeks ago, 5 ways to stop negativity in its tracks. And there is a little description of it. And one of the things I want you to note is there is a guest instructor. We have a lot of guest instructor. These are experts in the field that come in and talk about their expertise. If you've ever worked with Linda Bruno, she does a lot of emotional intelligence training. And so she brought this in for us and wrote out the lesson. And then we just click the start now. And I'm going to go ahead and just pause and change my screen share so that we can look at how this works. All right, so now we are in the lesson. We went into Niche Academy. That's where everything is hosted. If you have your own Niche Academy, it goes straight into your Niche Academy. You're not going into any place else. So the learning is exactly where your staff is already going for their learning. If you don't have Niche Academy, that's not a problem. You can access this through the NovareFOCUS portal. So very easy for staff to get into and access, and you just 5 ways negativity is in your tracks. You start clicking. And the lesson, I'll let you kind of read it. We're going to go slow. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to get drawn into the world of negativity? So this is going to focus on sometimes we forget that holding on to negativity versus focusing on the positive is a choice, not something that we have absolutely no control over. So, a first tip, understand where the negativity is coming from. Don't place the blame in the wrong direction. So, is it coming from me, my coworkers, my home environment, interpersonal relationships? Really sit back and figure out why you're so angry and why this negativity is coming from someplace. And then some tips on if it's you. Here's some things you can do. How can I take care of my mental health? Here's some really practical tips. It's not going to solve all the world's problems, but it's going to give them a starting place on how to manage their own emotions and some tips on how to improve that. If it's coming from coworkers, we can't get rid of our coworkers. So how do we deal with that? And giving them some tips on how to interact with their coworkers. that are having some negativity issues without creating conflict. So, how do we do this and be our best selves? If it's from their home environment or an interpersonal relationship, how can they do this? How can they be honest with themselves and figure out how to fix the issue? And how can they figure out how to separate the issue from the rest of their life so they're not negative everywhere? And lastly, tips. Some additional tips on how to solve this issue. So, teaching them how to be protective of their mental energy, not to feed negativity in their thoughts, and how to monitor and work on themselves. And then there's a little quiz. So, you just grab the answers and you put them in the right place. If it's not right, it's not going to let me do it. So, I'm going to go ahead. Oops. I can't apparently take a quiz while you do this. So you can see that I got nothing right. So I can replay it and I can work on this myself. This is when I'm not reading the actual answers. I'm just focused on talking to you. So I will verbalize my negativity to let off steam. No, I'm not going to do that. Correct. I will take responsibility. That is correct. So we're going to move it over there. I will acknowledge that my negativity stems from others' actions. I'm going to move that. Nope, that is not correct. I'm going to move it over here. So I can really interact, and we have different lessons every week. There's a different interactivity. So it's not like they always see the same thing. There's going to be matching games, flip cards, little interactive games that they play. And then there's always a little bit of a knowledge check just to make sure they understood the main point of the lesson. And they're going to hit submit. Oops, I think I didn't do something right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit submit. I didn't take the quiz correctly because I'm want to focus on talking to you and not the quiz. But you can see if I get things incorrect, it's going to help me and it's going to tell me how to take it again so we can get all that correct. And then at the very end, there's key takeaways. These are things that we want you to kind of take away from these 5 minutes that we had for training. So, of course, control the controllables and don't obsess over the things you can't control. Channel Charlie Brown, and remember that your mind is a garden and that you have my thoughts are seeds and I can grow flowers or I can grow weeds. So things that to kind of bring home the whole point and let them take it away. Depending on the lesson, there might be a specific call to action, a challenge for them to do something during the week. And this is going to wrap up that lesson nicely. And with that, I just want to mention as a subscription, we have a growing library because we're not repeating content. If your library subscribes, you get the whole past library. So you have access to a growing number of microlearning lessons. This is curated to help staff thrive. So if they're looking for a specific thing, they can come in and search through the archives to find videos. And what I often see is someone comes in to take one, and you can see that they loved it so much they took 2 or 3 different videos. So with that, I'm going to pass the meeting over to Amy Jane McWilliam from the Southwest Florida Library Network. Thank you, Amy, for joining us.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Jane McWilliam, and I'm the Executive Director of the Southwest Florida Library Network. We are a multi-type library cooperative located in Southwest Florida, and we provide support, resource sharing, and professional development to our members. We have about 30 member organizations, and that includes academic libraries, public, school, special, and tribal libraries. So we serve a vast population, all with varying professional development needs, as you can imagine. And despite that, they also have varying needs on how they actually want to access professional development. So first, I'm going to go in a little bit about how we figured out we needed micro-learning. So as Diana mentioned earlier, she attended a conference and everybody was talking about in-person training attendance is decreasing. And I definitely, when I worked in public libraries, I was in public libraries for 20 years until after COVID. And so we noticed that, especially after COVID, that was decreasing. And then when I got into Swiftland, when I entered here, that became noticeable year after year. So in person, and by in person, not just getting people into another location or out of their library branch, it's also live webinars. Getting people to commit to a specific time has also been a challenge. So that was a pretty clear shift. And when we spoke to our members, what we were hearing, our staff are busy, schedules are really tight, and honestly, attention spans, for lack of better phrasing. I mean, I can think of all the times I'm sitting in a webinar, and I'm not talking about anybody in the room right now, but when I'm sitting in a webinar, and you get distracted, you get a knock on the door, there's a problem patron or an issue at the circulation desk or reference desk that you need to attend to. So we decided that in addition to the in-person and live webinars, that we needed to find another way to reach our members on a consistent basis, right? So we started leaning more into shorter, more flexible learning options. And with Novare, we've had a lot of success with Novare's self-paced tutorials. They're consistently some of our most used content, quality tutorials with experts in the industry, and library focus, which is really important because a lot of times when you offer generic training, it's just not as well received if it applies to every industry, right? So library focus was really important. So when NovareFOCUS was introduced, it really made sense for us to try it. Do you mind advancing to the next slide? Thank you. And it's been a really good fit. The tutorials are short. They're like 5-10 minutes tops, and that's if you're rereading. I usually go through the tutorials with a cup of coffee while I'm going through emails. And as Diana mentioned, they're practical. They cover a wide range of topics that staff need for their day-to-day work. Things like leadership, communication, customer service, time management, and even topics like cyber scams and info literacy. And now that's important because not every library employee has the same role in a library. Not every library employee comes from a library background. So it's really helpful in developing a common language and a common understanding with some people who may be intimidated because maybe they don't have a library degree or they don't have that library background, and you're in a room with a bunch of people who know things, right? Librarians, we're professional know-it-alls. That's what I like to call us. So sometimes that's intimidating. So this helps develop a common language. What's especially valuable about these tutorials is that they're really manageable for people to understand and to access and to implement. Staff can complete them without feeling like a huge time commitment. Supervisors can assign them without feeling like they're putting this undue burden on their staff. And library leaders are actually able to build them into like staff goals and objectives. I mean, I used to run a department, and I would have loved to have something like this that we could talk about in our team meeting once a week. So really great concepts. From an administrative standpoint of how we get these out to our members, we do it two ways. So we get the email from Novare, and we just copy it and paste it into Constant Contact and send it through our email distribution list, so our folks get it that way. We subscribe to Niche Academy, so they're in our academy. So what's great about that is that if somebody wants to explore or revisit some tutorials, they have access to the whole library. Or if you are a supervisor and maybe you have a team member who needs a little help with time management or organization, you can talk to them about these tutorials, and we're talking 5 to 10 minutes. So, you can see some action items maybe with that staff member almost or some understanding, at least, of the concepts of what what they need help with. So I really love that it's accessible in two ways. I've never had anybody tell me that there were issues in actually accessing the content. I know that there were some glitches with the Zoom, but we haven't had that problem. So unexpected outcome, which was phenomenal. So for in-person training and live webinars, we send our attendees a survey, right? But we don't do that with on-demand or self-paced tutorials. So we don't really hear that much about it. But I have been getting so much feedback from NovareFOCUS, and I shared those with Diana because I usually don't have our members reach out to me directly to talk to me about on-demand or content, right? So some of the feedback that I've heard is that they appreciate and really like the topics, that they're timely and relevant, that they're great introductions to a topic, or useful reminders. And I find with the leadership, a lot of library leaders are finding that there are a lot of useful reminders, concepts that they've learned about, and other leadership training that, again, Diana mentioned you come back from a conference and you have a notepad full of these great things you're going to do, and maybe you get one or two of them done. So these were great reminders. And also great strategies that are easy to apply right away. So we even I had one member who watched the zombie leadership focus tutorial, and she actually requested more in-depth training. So it wasn't really this isn't just a quick learning opportunity. It's also sparking deeper engagement with our members, and that's been a great unexpected outcome for us. I also want to mention that Diana is very, very easy to work with. She's professional and responsive to my needs as a customer. She's been a longtime vendor of the Southwest Florida Library Network. I mentioned we purchased quite a few of her self-paced tutorials. The training is adaptable. She's always welcome. She always welcomes feedback, suggestions for new topics. And again, these topics are timely and relevant and constantly evolving. The focus and microlearning doesn't replace in person. It doesn't replace live webinars, but what it does is it allows us to focus those learning opportunities on more unique or advanced learning and training or hands-on training. Micro-focus allows us to really stretch our dollars. And for us, we have limited time, limited funding. So it really comes down to what is the value that we're getting from this. So I want to make sure that I'm offering my members something that they're going to use, and that will this make a difference in their day-to-day work. And so for us, NovareFOCUS really delivers on that. And we've been very, very happy with the service that we've been receiving. Does anyone have any questions for me? Okay, thank you. Thanks for letting me share my experience.
Great. Thank you for that great overview, Amy Jane and Diana. It's now time for questions and answers. So you can post your questions into the chat, and we will get through all of those. While everybody's thinking here, I'll start with a question that I hear often from libraries. Diana, can you tell us how the weekly lesson topics are chosen?
Oh, definitely. So again, there's a couple different instructors and coworkers that are working on this, but at the end of every single focus lesson, we ask, do you have another topic that you'd like to hear? And we collect all of those, not guaranteeing that those are going to be in lessons, but those give us some leads. I talk to all of my clients on a regular basis to ask, is there a training need that they have? And then, of course, just listening to, staying in tune with libraries and understanding the current hot topics and needs that we're seeing out there. So between those sort of different ways, we feel like we're trying to stay on top of the trends and making sure that we are pushing training that is highly relevant to everybody during their during that captive 5 minutes that we have of them.
Great. Okay. We have a question for Amy Jane here. The question is, do you purchase it for your members uh, individually?
We
Do you
purchase
purchase
it
it?
based on our organization size. So it's based on the amount of employees that are within our member organization. So I believe that's a pricing structure, that Diana would be able to provide for you. But yes, so Swiftland provides it for all of the libraries in Southwest Florida that are members of our organization.
Great. Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, the pricing is based on your staff FTE. Here, another question is, would we have the choice on the topic sent to our staff?
Currently, no. They rotate out on a regular basis between the five topics. So there's not really that much flexibility, but that is actually one of the topics for like development in the future, is to sort of let people do tracks if they wanted. But right now, your staff gets a weekly lesson on each of the different things of the areas.
Great, thank you.
And we can always include stuff that, if you had something specific, we can always make sure that we're addressing that training need within the 56 weeks.
Yeah, so to piggyback on that, Diana, how do people, how do you get suggestions from customers?
So first, I'm in touch with I check in with site coordinators on a fairly regular basis just to make sure everybody's happy. And then at the end of every session is a quick survey asking them how long it took them to do the lesson, just so we can kind of gauge and make sure we don't get it's very tempting to get wordy on these things. So to make sure that we're staying within our scope of micro learning, we ask your staff to evaluate the lesson. So give it 1 to 5 stars and any feedback from the course. So lots of usually I can tell when a library sends out that email because within 10 minutes I start to get an influx of survey results from that library for that lesson. And then in there we ask them, are there any additional topics that they would like to see? And staff members are filling that out with abandonment. We get lots of ideas just right in there. So we're very open to staff. And then all in each tutorial, there's my contact information that goes back into the company. So if someone wanted to just give us feedback, they can just say, we'd like this topic as well. So we're really responsive to trying to make sure we're meeting everybody's needs, and we work about a quarter ahead with the content. So as we get content, we can kind of implement it into the production cycle.
We have a question that says, how do you manage sites that have different software or local practices? Dewey versus LOC, LibGuides, Microsoft versus Google, etc.
So we've had an active conversation. We're not going to get too into the weeds with specific softwares. Like there's Cloud Library, there's Libby, there's all these different databases. So while we talk about Microsoft, we kind of keep it at a higher level because even if you're a Google institution, you're going to deal with Microsoft, and even if you're a Microsoft institution, you're going to deal with Google because of collaboration with other institutions. So kind of keeping those kind of contents on the higher level, but we don't get into too specific into formats. For example, when we talk about having a zero inbox, we don't really talk about it being Outlook versus Gmail. We just talk about the best practices within your emails client.
Another question for you. This person is curious about the role of a site coordinator. What is a site coordinator and what's their role?
So their role is just really to help me make sure that we have things set up. It doesn't take a lot of time. And then weekly, I will send the marketing email to that person. And then they would distribute it to their staff. however they see fit. And I work with each site coordinator to figure out the best way to do that. I have some libraries that have a whole team. They would prefer to get the email so they can rotate it. And then I have others that it's an individual I send it to. And that email is ready to go. It's customized to your library. You don't have to go searching for links and graphics and things like that. We wanted to make this really easy. And that weekly email is one of the keys to success because it's in their email on a regular basis. We typically send that email to you by Monday afternoon, and with the goal of that you would send it out on Wednesdays. So you have plenty of time to figure out how, where in your workflow that would fit within there. And I've had site coordinators send me an email and say, I'm going on vacation next week. Can you send it to me early? And we do that for you. We just get that out so that you have that and your staff doesn't miss out.
Great. I think there was one more there. What are the membership levels, for example, weekly, monthly, annually? This is an annual subscription, is what it is. Anything you want to add to that, Diana?
Nope. It's an annual subscription. There are a couple free ones. If you have Niche Academy in the Niche Academy marketplace, that you're able to just go ahead and add to your staff learning tool if you wanted to kind of get some feedback from your own staff on it.
Yeah. And then just to sort of reiterate there, the lessons do come weekly. So, 52 weeks out of the year. And that's the whole concept of, small micro learning opportunities, but consistent over time. Great questions. Thank you, everyone. Okay. All right. With that, we will conclude. And I just wanted to make a quick note here that hey, I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone after the meeting here. And so go ahead and get a hold of me if you'd like. Now, Diana's going to be at PLA next week. She will have a booth there. So if you're going, feel free to stop by, say hi to her, pick up some chocolates. I hear she's got good chocolate.
I always have good chocolate. It's what I'm known for at a conference. Booth 327.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. All right. And with that, I thank you all for coming and have a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.